Revealing my worst mistake, I got caught on my knees at a party by my husband. How it ruined my life. Hello, Reddit. My name is Celine, and I'm a 33-year-old financial manager at a huge insurance company. And I'm actually married. I've been for 15 years now, and it would be our 16th anniversary in 2 months. Only that my husband probably won't be celebrating with me this year. It's because I did the unthinkable, and now my husband and even my kids don't want anything to do with me. I'm really desperate, and I will do anything to get them to forgive me and allow me back in my place as a wife and mother. I've tried different attempts to get them to talk to me, but they just won't even hear me out. This is literally my last resort, and I know I will probably have to tell you guys what happened exactly. So here I am, revealing my worst mistake. Oh, how it ruined my life. I hadn't just been on my knees wiping off a kitchen aisle or picking something up. I had actually been in the bathroom with my lover, giving him a blowjob on the bathroom floor. I hadn't even expected Adam, my husband, would walk in at that point. I know. I did something so horrible. You see, I've been married to Adam, my husband, for 15 whole years, as I mentioned before. He had been my first boyfriend and lover. We had actually been each other's first. We were two young teenagers fooling around and did not know how to handle things properly. And by age 17, I became pregnant. Our parents had been furious with us at first, and then we had been given 3 options: adoption, abortion, and raising the baby ourselves. We had chosen to raise the baby. I had doubts, all right, because I hadn't been sure at that point that an unplanned baby was something I wanted, but Adam had been so convinced we could do well as parents, and I had accepted to keep the baby. Our parents had been really supportive after they had gotten over the initial shock of the news of the pregnancy. We had insisted on getting married so we did not have to raise the child out of wedlock, and our parents had agreed to it, but only after I had given birth and was an official adult, 18 years of age. We had the simplest wedding with just our families alone in attendance, but nevertheless it had been beautiful. We loved each other and were ready to commit despite our young age and regardless of what everyone else had to say about our situation. We even got people telling us that getting married was just wrong because we'd later want to get that freedom to explore other relationships, but we were adamant that we could do well with just the 2 of us and our baby. I was barely an adult with a child, and even with the support from Adam and our family, it was hard getting by. Adam had to work part-time jobs while attending school so he could provide for us. Our parents offered to pay for our college tuition until we graduated, but everything about the baby was left for us. They wanted us to learn from our mistakes and not think everything would be handed over to us on a silver platter, and we hadn't minded at first. Well, I hadn't minded at first, but eventually. I stayed a year back from school while Adam studied and worked to provide for us both and our baby. Adam had been very supportive, but I felt really frustrated because I couldn't do what my peers were doing at the time. I wanted to go to school and not be saddled with a child. When a year was up, my parents took Emily, my first daughter, in with them, and they and Adam's parents chose to share the responsibility of looking after her while I went to school. I went to the same school as Adam, so I did not get to do much exploring either, as I was already married. The only fun I got was with Adam, and Adam was a book geek. His idea of fun was reading a book together and arguing about some facts in those books. I wanted to party, have fun with friends, and just kiss a guy who was a total stranger at some party I hadn't even been invited to in the first place. But all that I had imagined I would do when I got to school, I couldn't because I also had to work part-time to support Adam in providing for our child, even though he had insisted I didn't, but I was quite adamant about it. We finished school, and Adam had quickly gotten a well-paying job with his computer skills. I had gotten pregnant with our second baby girl in our final year of school, but I had all the support I needed, even though I must admit that I wasn't grateful for it. I wanted to have an abortion because I didn't want to have a baby or go through the stress of giving birth again, but Adam would have none of it. He refused to let me get an abortion, and that frustrated me so much. Eventually, I agreed to keep the baby for peace's sake. I gave birth to our second baby girl, Coral, and she had been so adorable that I was glad at that moment that I hadn't been allowed to have an abortion. Adam worked really hard to buy us a house so we could bring our first child to live with us, and it had taken him a full year to do that because he used up all his savings and even had to get a mortgage so we could get the house. When we finally did and Emily came to live with us, I wanted to start working, and Adam agreed. So I got my first job in the insurance company, and I was so pleased and happy that the first job I landed was a good one. Adam and I had our first fight in many years on our 10th anniversary. I had insisted we go on a trip as a family, but Adam had wanted us to just stay and step out to some fancy restaurant instead of going through the whole trip because he had work he needed to finish. I was upset because I felt like I did not really get as much freedom as I would have liked. I got married rather early. I have kids that, of course, depend on their mother to have everything figured out, which I didn't. It felt like a whole lot. I felt like I was sacrificing too much and was appreciated less because the kids just simply adored their dad, and they preferred him over me, possibly because, according to them, I snapped easily. I felt really caged, and Adam could not even relate because he looked really happy and satisfied with our marriage. I wasn't, and that displeased me very much. The crazy thing was, I felt Adam did not understand me at all. He was not understanding the reason why I kept getting frustrated about the whole thing. He loved that we got married early. He did not even want the chance to explore anything or do anything different than being with me and also providing for the kids and me. So soon I got a friend, Sonia. Sonia went to the same high school as Adam and I did. She had been one of the few people who actually had never spoken against my early marriage with Adam. She had been a nonchalant friend and was indifferent about the whole thing. So when I heard that Sonia was back in New York from Chinatown, where she went for some work, I had been happy and had called her to meet up with me, which she had gladly accepted. We met up on a weekend and had a girls' time out. We visited the spa, got our nails done, went to eat at a new local restaurant, and then we headed to her house to spend the rest of the day. I had wanted to tell her about my insecurities about my marriage and how unhappy I had felt the past few years, maybe even from the beginning. But Sonia had started talking about how lucky I was with Adam. Sonia, well, thought me lucky to still be married to the same man for that long, and that I was not out there dealing with a man who does not know what he wants in a woman or a cheating bastard. I kept quiet and decided not to talk about how I felt because that meant she would never truly understand my feelings if she already felt I was lucky. I really tried to be happy in my marriage. I tried several things I could. One time, I even tried an online suggestion of spicing up my marriage by suggesting some sexual nonsense to my husband. He had agreed to do them all with me, and at first I had been excited and happy he did. But eventually it got boring again. Sex with Adam did not excite me. It had been exciting when we were barely adults and sneaking to do things we weren't supposed to be doing. It had been fun. In fact, that had been what made my orgasm really amazing. That thought of us going to get caught soon. But now nobody would think anything of it when they saw us dangling over our bed and having wild sex. They'd think of it as normal. And maybe I should say I did not want to have normal. I wanted crazy and wild. But I was getting the boring, everyday life normal routine. I knew it was a me problem because every normal person wanted the security that Adam gave me and the kids. But I don't know why I just felt that way. I continued to struggle with my feelings personally without letting anyone know. Well, I wouldn't say exactly that I struggled with it silently. I let out my frustrations on the kids and on Adam, and they all preferred to stay away whenever I was in those moods, and that just somehow angered me more. I hated that the kids loved Adam more, even though he worked more, and I was around more than he was. I hated the way everyone seemed to think of me as the she-devil, the unsatisfied queen, and I was that, but it just made me mad when anyone else thought it. Does that make any sense? It probably doesn't, but that was how I felt. As the financial manager of my company, we were asked to organize a party to invite people to actually orient them more about our company and the benefits of insuring. I had been in charge of getting the food, and I had gone to that local restaurant that Sonia and I had visited once because of how good they were, and I had asked to speak with the head chef so I could discuss the services she'd be rendering for us. It had actually been a very young he, in fact, which had somehow surprised me, especially because I found out he was the owner of the restaurant. I had been extremely impressed, and when we had gone over the menu of the dishes he'd be providing us, I had asked about his inspiration for starting up a local restaurant, and not all those intercontinental restaurants that most people did. And he had told me about his family having a restaurant back in the years that had closed down due to lack of financial aid, and he had actually wanted to recreate what they had had. I was very much impressed by him and had hired him for the job. The day came, and I had even invited Adam and introduced him to Greg, the young restaurant owner, and they had even gotten along well. After the successful party, everyone had praised the food, and I had pointed out where his restaurant was to people who asked so they could once again taste his food. 2 weeks later, Greg had called me surprisingly on my personal number. I had only given him my business card when we had met up for work. Apparently, he had a lot of customers come in that week to eat at his restaurant, and he wanted to show a bit of appreciation by inviting me to have a special dinner, and he had told me to come alone. I had wanted to ask why alone, but I did not bother to. Adam would probably be too tired to go out to eat, and the kids had school the next day, so I had decided to go alone. I had texted Adam to tell him I would be late because of work. I hadn't wanted to tell him about the offer made by Greg because it had felt somehow inappropriate. So I had gone, and he had served me some very delicious food. We had spoken about everything and anything, and somehow we had brooded on the topic of sex. Somehow I don't know how the conversation had started, but we had just started talking about it, and we had been drawn to each other and had even shared a kiss. I found myself thinking about that kiss all through the next day. It was something I should not have done. Something bad. Something totally cheating on my husband. But somehow I found the thought of doing something like that exhilarating and exciting. I knew that even though it sounded bad that I wanted to. I had wanted to explore again that feeling that I finally wanted with Greg. So I had gone over to his restaurant the next evening again, knowing fully well that he probably would have closed for the day. He had been excited to see me, and that had made my heart jump. I started to talk about the kiss, and I had asked why he had kissed me the other night, knowing fully well that I was married and that I was way older than him. From our conversation the other night, he had mentioned his age and he was just 22. I was 11 years older than him. He had told me that he felt really attracted to me and knew that I felt the same way, and he wanted to damn all the consequences and actually have me for himself. Somehow, someway, we had found our way to his apartment that evening, and we had had sex. The crazy thing was that he was not even as good as Adam was at satisfying me, but the thought of what if I got caught made the whole situation more alluring and made the sex really good. I left his place that evening in a jiffy. I wanted to get home before Adam because he had called during my lunch break to let me know he would be home late, so I hadn't wanted him to suspect anything, even though I knew that the kids would probably tell him I got home minutes before he did. But I still wanted to make everything as normal as it could be. Well, everything was normal. I was the only one feeling out of place. Perhaps because I did something I should never have done. That night, Adam had gotten home rather excited than tired. He had been able to successfully launch the app he had been working on for a year now, and he had been in the mood to celebrate. I had been happy for him, only I just was not in the mood to celebrate with him because my mind kept wandering back to what had happened between Greg and me. I had found myself wondering if Adam had known what I had done earlier that evening. He probably would not be touching me and trying to get me in the mood to have sex. I had, of course, had sex with Adam that evening so that he wouldn't suspect anything had gone wrong. But I stopped having sex with Adam after that. I only did with Greg almost every evening before I came home. Sometimes it was during my lunch break. I would sneak away to have quick sex with Greg. Adam noticed that I was refusing sex and giving all sorts of excuses, and he had related it to my job being stressful, and he stopped disturbing me about it. In fact, on our 15th year anniversary, he had decided we go on a trip, just the two of us without the kids, so we could maybe rebuild that spark that seemed to have gone out of our relationship. And I had made all sorts of excuses for why I couldn't go. I even used the kids as an excuse not to go because I hadn't wanted to. Greg was my new muse. We had sex in exciting places. It was almost scary. One time he had come to my office under the pretense of coming to discuss business, and he had locked my door and had me smack on my office desk, and we had had sex. Another time had been in his kitchen, which was a bit enclosed so the customers couldn't exactly see what was in. He had sent away his staff for a break, invited me over, and we had done it right on his kitchen counter. I felt guilty doing it, but I wanted to satisfy myself more. I was greedy and selfish to do so. Adam wanted desperately for things to be back to the same for us, and had even booked us a session with a therapist. I had agreed because I hadn't wanted him suspecting that I didn't want things to work between us. I did, honestly. I loved Adam very much. Greg was just like having a new, exciting toy as a kid, and then you leave that old toy you were always attached to and play with the new one for a while until it gets broken, and then you're back to your old stable toy. I enjoyed the feeling of ecstasy that I got when I was with Greg, but I never confused the emotion to mean love because I knew well and truly that I only ever loved Adam and would forever only love him. I think my daughter started to suspect my relationship with Greg when I had taken her to Greg's restaurant to eat out. We did not have that mother-daughter relationship that I have always wanted, and she was growing so fast and was already aware of a lot of things that I did not want her to be, including and especially sex. I wanted us to bond and then be able to discuss the sex matter. However perfect Adam and I had been together, despite being barely adults when we got married, I wanted her to understand that it did not work for everybody. I did not want her making the mistakes I did, so I decided we should have a girls' time out with just us, without Coral too. She was, however, only too happy to stay with her dad and watch football games. It had been the first time ever that I suggested Emily and I go out without her sister or father, and she had been uncomfortable at first before she was able to relax a bit. We had gone shopping, then to get a manicure and pedicure. Then we had gotten hungry, and I had stupidly suggested Greg's restaurant without thinking twice. We had gotten there, and I had introduced them to each other, and Greg had complimented her. He was being very informal with me, and Emily must have noticed that, especially the casual winks he threw at me when he left our table to prepare our order, and she had gotten uncomfortable with me again. Then I had not even known. I only knew that she was not the same happy and carefree child I had brought into the restaurant. In fact, she barely ate her food, and I tried several times to figure out what was wrong, but she wouldn't say. Eventually, while we were driving home, she had asked me why the restaurant guy, which was what she called Greg, had been chummy with me. I had to quickly lie that that was the way Greg was with everyone, and I had not noticed him getting chummy with me. Emily, clearly not satisfied with the answer I gave, had kept quiet and did not say anything about it again. Soon after that incident, Adam decided to take a 2-month break from work, and it had been the hardest thing at that point keeping my relationship with Greg away from him. Adam had insisted on picking me up after work. He would come around often to my work to pick me up for lunch and then drop me off some minutes before my lunch break was over. He was determined to get things right between us. Sometimes he would cook us dinner and wait for me to come home so we could eat together, asking me questions about work and everything. He would even set up the mood for sex, and there was no way I could turn him away. On weekends, he would drive us to our parents' place to have lunch and then drive us back home. Greg kept insisting I find a way to see him. It was obvious he was getting really obsessed with me, and I did not know how to handle that. Everything was starting to spiral out of my control, and I was starting to panic. I could not afford to lose the man who had always been a constant in my life because of an affair that I was just using to pass the time. I knew I had to end things with Greg before it got too late, but everything got really busy for me, and eventually I didn't find the right time to end things with Greg. My daughter's birthday came up, and Adam and I decided to do something big for her. She literally marked the beginning of our relationship and marriage, so we wanted to celebrate her as much as we could, and we also wanted to celebrate Adam's big wins and awards. So we planned to do both together, and I got busy planning everything and trying to make everything perfect for that day. Because of how busy I was with the planning and also with work, I did not have any time for Greg, which must have put him on edge. I invited everyone I knew for the party except Greg because I hadn't wanted things to get awkward, and besides, I knew Emily still did not trust my relationship with him enough to have him at her party, so I had left him out of the invitation. Adam invited his coworkers, and I also invited mine, and Emily and Coral also got to invite their friends too. The day of the party came, and I, as the party planner, was busy making everything right, greeting everyone with smiles, and thanking them for joining us for our big celebration. Sonia had even shown up surprisingly, and I had been happy to see her. She wasn't based in New York, so her traveling down after telling me she probably wouldn't make it had meant a lot to me. Somehow Greg had found out about the party and he had shown up. I was so shocked, and I couldn't stop myself from going rigid with tension, especially since I noticed the frown on Emily's face when she saw Greg, and I knew I had to somehow get rid of Greg without causing a scene. So I had texted Greg to sneak up and meet me in the guest bathroom so we could talk. I saw when he read the text, and he stylishly went up the stairs without being noticed, and I also followed 2 minutes after, pretending like I had something to do upstairs. When I met with Greg in the bathroom, he hadn't even given me the chance to say anything, but had just started to kiss me. I tried to push him off, but he was clearly not having it. I was more adamant and told him that I wanted him to leave the party because I did not want my husband and kids suspecting anything, and he had reluctantly agreed to leave, but only after he had some sort of relief with his erection. I decided to go down on him. All my mind thought of was that if I did that, I would be able to get rid of him quickly, and then go back to being the good host of the party. But something horrible had happened right there. Adam had walked in on us. Me with my mouth on Greg's penis and Greg's hand in my hair, gripping it out of pleasure. The look of shock on his face seeing me just made me freeze. Another worse thing had happened when Emily walked in after her father, asking whether he had found me. Seeing my position, she had also been so shocked and had screamed. Her scream unfroze me, and I quickly stood up while trying to adjust myself, and Greg quickly, without zipping his trousers properly, ran out. Adam did not say a word to me. He just went downstairs and announced that due to some personal reasons, the party had to end. I couldn't say anything because I did not know what to say. I knew I was in a lot of trouble, and I did not know how to handle the situation. Everyone had left, surprised that the party ended as soon as it started. Adam does not want anything to do with me. I tried to talk to Emily, but she just looked at me in disgust and took her sister into their room and locked me out. I've tried several times to apologize by any means I can, but Adam is not even listening to me at all. Please, guys, I cannot lose my marriage. I really, really desperately need your help, guys. I've ruined my life. I need help, please. Update. Hello, Reddit. You know the feeling of being rejected so awfully it seems like the whole world is against you, and it's actually all your fault. I was the stupid one. Stupid enough to think that I could get away with cheating on Adam. I still cannot forget the look of horror on his face and that of Emily's when they saw me that day on the bathroom floor. To say I feel horrible is an understatement of how I feel right now. Funny how I came here thinking of this as my last resort, but then it had probably been my worst mistake. You guys seem to have made it your life's mission to show me just how awful you think I am. And that alone just made my depression worse. Adam sent me divorce papers to sign, and the worst decision he took was that he wanted full custody of our kids. I know that even if it were a court case, I probably would lose because Emily wants nothing to do with me. And since Coral looks up to her, she would probably follow her path. I would lose everything. No, scratch that. I have lost everything. I don't know how to live anymore. My entire life had always revolved around Adam. We started as kids and matured into adults in our marriage. I do not know anything else. And now suddenly it seems like everything I've always known has crumbled. And it's totally my fault. I cannot live without Adam and our kids. That's all my life right now. But now my family is intent on living on without me in the picture. You guys have no idea how much that hurts. I feel so horrible and desperate. I wish there was something I could do to actually change their minds about it. Anything at all. Even if it meant I was just given a small space in their life just to exist like I didn't. But they want me totally out, and it's devastating knowing that I did that to myself. I made my family actually want to be a family without me in it. I hurt my family with my careless decision to do something as stupid as having an extramarital affair. Now I'm left to deal with the consequences of my actions, and I cannot even escape it. I made my bed, and now I have to lie in it. Adam. Adam had been the kindest and most loving man I could have ever had the chance of meeting. He was a family man through and through. He worked hard to make sure our family, which had started as a mistake, did not continue as one. He made me the woman I was, and yet all I chose to repay him with was cheating. Stupid, stupid, stupid me. How could I have never thought of all of these before now? How exactly did I think I could have gotten away with cheating? Why hadn't my reasoning faculty just thought of all these before? Oh, this is hell. I feel like I fell into a deep hole and cannot even bring myself to crawl out. A hole I dug myself. Sometimes I have deluded myself into thinking that maybe all this was just a bad nightmare, and I would wake up soon from it. But all I do is wake up another morning and realize yet again that it wasn't just a dream. Ever since that awful, dreadful day of the party, Greg had not called me and had just texted me to end things. A coward. That's who he is. Now I wonder what I saw in him to have thought it enough to cheat on my already perfect marriage. I really regret my actions. Terribly. Words cannot fully explain just how horrible I feel at this moment. The whole family, including my parents and Adam's parents, also don't want anything to do with me after hearing about the whole situation. Sonia, whom I thought of as a friend too, does not want anything to do with me because she also feels I messed up pretty badly. I have never felt as alone as I feel at this moment. No one is on my side. That's not so surprising, though, because even I myself am not on my side. I wish I had a way to turn back the hands of time to the day I made that stupid decision to actually start an affair with Greg. I regret my actions so much. I kept looking for excitement in an already exciting relationship. What should be more exciting to a woman than having kids to love and take care of, and a husband who adores her so much and would give up anything for her, and had done so for more than 10 years without any thoughts of being unfaithful? Adam never gave me reasons to doubt his love right from the beginning of our relationship, and yet I just kept stupidly deluding myself that I needed to find happiness when I had all the happiness I could have ever wanted right with me. I threw everything away for some careless and reckless affair, and now I have nothing to fall back on. Crying myself to sleep, and when I wake up, continuing from where I stopped is now my normal. I don't pity myself, and I know for sure you guys don't pity me because I deserve all I got. I wish life did do-overs. I would gladly go back in time and become the best wife I could have ever been to Adam and the best mother to our kids. I would have never met Greg or even thought of cheating on Adam. I would probably not be in this shitty hole that I am right now. I wish I had made the right decisions at crucial moments. I really, really desperately wish I had. Now my life is just a mess. No hope for anything. The future just feels like a long, empty tomorrow. Because I am very, very alone. Lonely would be an understatement to how I feel. Update. Hello, Reddit. This is my last post here. Yes, yes, I am still a miserable divorcee. Adam and our kids still want nothing to do with me. I'm a miserable hag who will forever be weighed down by the consequences of her actions. Whoever said pain heals with time definitely got something wrong with my own diagnosis. Every day seemed more painful than the last. On some days, it feels as though I'm struggling for air, and on others, it feels like I'm drowning with no one to actually save me. Your comments, however harsh, are the only thing I've got going for me at the moment. Every other thing seems to be on standby. Or better still, I'm the one on standby because everyone seems to be moving at a very fast pace.
No.
Sometimes I would sneak to my girls' school just to check on them, to see them if only from a distance. And I would see Adam, who had come to pick them up. The ultimate joy on their faces whenever they sighted their father waiting for them in the car park allocated for parents, and the way he would pick up Coral and shower her with kisses, causing her to giggle, makes my heart clench painfully. They've moved on. They've forgotten about the cheating wife and careless mother. I am no one. I have no place in their hearts, and that alone just kills me more than anything else can do. Nothing hurts. Nothing would hurt as much as seeing the people you love move on without you because you made them evict you out of their lives. It's so painful. It hurts like hell. This hell I've successfully created for myself is so dreadful and scary. But I cannot even escape my abyss now, can I? I wish I had a chance to show them how sorry I am, but it's very obvious how little they wanted me around, and it's all totally my fault. I wish I was brave enough to actually end it all. But I'm just a coward. And then again, I know I should live. I should live long so I could pay for my sins every day of my life, even though I know that living long enough would still never be enough to pay them off completely. I really am sorry for everything I did to hurt you, Adam. Words cannot express just how deeply sorry I am for everything I did to hurt you. I'm sorry I was not the perfect wife and mother to our kids. I'm sorry I never was satisfied, despite the fact that you provided everything for me to be comfortable. I will forever live to regret losing you, Adam. And I know you've always been a better parent to our kids, so I'm glad they're with you and not the stupid me. I hope you guys did learn from me, because it would be stupid to actually make the mistakes I made. Thanks and goodbye.